see that in the UAE, maybe and even contrary to some misperceptions, women are holding leading positions in business and government also. And over the next half an hour, we will speak about business opportunities in the UAE, for opportunities for cooperation, and we'll try to understand better from our Israeli side what can we do together, and Mayor Lindsay will present the Israeli side, what we are looking here for. So I'll start with you, Sheikha. You lead the Ajman Free Zone, and this is a very interesting concept that we just learned about in Israel, and I would like you to elaborate a little bit how it works, what are the benefits, and how can Israeli businessmen enjoy it. And please, before you start, a brief introduction of you in a couple of words.
Good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to welcome you and meet you here in Dubai and in Israel, the Dubai conference today. This conference is expected to build more economic relation between UAE and Israel, and find opportunities that we can support businessmen in doing their business here in the region. Hope all of you enjoyed those days in Dubai. We are looking soon to see all of you here again, and enjoy the weather, the tourism site visits, and also enjoy having your companies growing within the region. So we will take the opportunity to introduce the Emirate of Ajman in the beginning of my speech. We have heard yesterday about the UAE in general and about Abu Dhabi and Dubai. So Ajman is one of the 7 emirates who contributes in shaping the UAE success story. Ajman is a vibrant place when it goes to business or even in entertainment and other places to visit. Let's say people in different nationalities and backgrounds stays in Ajman and consider it its second home. And that's due to the affordable cost of living and the family ecosystem that is built in the Emirate of Ajman. Ajman is a quiet city to stay, and also it's a nice developing area to work and do projects.
You're making us sorry we didn't go there. Why did we
your
go to
second
Dubai?
visit, that will be soon, inshallah. You will be in Ajman, and I'm very happy to even host a delegation of Israel and take them a tour in the Emirate of Ajman. Ajman has a population of almost 500,000 people who's staying in the Emirates.
How much of them are Emiratis?
Let's say it's almost like half and half, because we have many of the people who work in the other Emirates. Due to the strategic location of the Emirate of Ajman and affordable cost of staying, they are staying in the Emirate of Ajman. So let's say Ajman is the UAE raising business hub, and it's developing very rapidly in the last 5-6 years. So this is my introduction to the Emirate of Ajman. I will leave the other for your visit, inshallah.
Okay, so maybe just about the concept of the free zone. What are the benefits? There are different benefits between the different free zones, because we know that you have dozens of them.
Yeah, definitely. Ajman Free Zone is a free zone that was established in 1988, 30 years ago almost, and it's one of the oldest free zones in the UAE itself. The nature of the free zone that gives 100% ownership for foreign investment and has its ready infrastructure for businessmen to start their business in. When it comes to the benefits that Ajman Free Zone provides, first of all, its strategic location builds these benefits automatically, because we are stick to the port. So it's a support for traders to establish in Ajman Free Zone. Our location between the Emirates, we are in the middle of the Emirates, so the strategic location gives this connection for logistics companies and even for business to move to Dubai and Abu Dhabi in a side, and then to the Northern Emirates in the other side. We are connected to highways, so it's easy to transfer goods and do business within the day. One of the main focus area is our strategy that focus on technology.
That we will talk about later. I would like to turn to you, Vikram. You came to the UAE as a successful businessman from India, and you established here headquarters of your business. Maybe you have some advice and some tips for Israeli businessmen how to be a foreign businessman here in the UAE, and what makes it so business friendly?
Thank you. So we started off in India as a small company, and as we grew internationally, we were looking for bases to set up. We chose Dubai because it's actually very, very easy. It's very, very safe. It's very, very systematic. The infrastructure is wonderful. The government is very, very helpful, welcoming. They're very, very practical here.
You operate in free zone or?
No, so we operate in a free zone. We operate in JLT, which allows us to operate. And over the years, they have been making more and more free zones and rules easier for foreigners to come and operate.
Okay, great. So maybe a little bit about your company. What exactly is your business area?
So we are like the Israeli company Adama. We are like that. We are in agrochemicals, seeds. We are the global leader in biological, organic, and natural products for agriculture. We operate in 138 countries. Recently, we won a lot of awards for being the most sustainable agricultural input company in the world. And we have a lot of innovation, and we're very excited about sustainable agriculture.
How many people do you employ here?
In Israel, we have, in Dubai, we have operations in Israel too.
We'll talk about it later.
In Dubai, we have about 40 people here who are part of our leadership. So a lot of them are based out of here. We found that people who run our Africa business, Asia business, and a lot of our global positions, living out of UAE, living out of Dubai is very easy because of the airlines and connectivity and time zone. Time zone works very well.
And tax-free also, where you don't, the employees don't have to pay income taxes, right?
Absolutely. So the tax structure here definitely helps. People love to come to work in the UAE and Dubai.
Okay.
It's easy.
It sounds optimistic. Mayor, I would like to turn to you now. We now heard the Emirati side, and I would like to hear the Israeli side. You probably got a lot of phones and emails from Israeli businessmen looking for some activity in the UAE. How do you explain the hype, the popularity? So the market is not so big, almost like the Israeli one. So what attracts the Israeli businessmen otherwise than the optimism around the Abraham Accords?
So first of all, the market is not so small, but it was mentioned before, the UAE is a hub to all the GC countries, to Far East and to East Africa. So it's a hub to very, very big market. So I think it's an ideal place to build either regional headquarter or even global headquarter of Israeli businesses. We thought in the past to establish such headquarter in London. Sometimes it was in Amsterdam. So this is not the place to act with the US, okay? That we know. But other than the US and Europe, for the rest of the world, this is the best place. Secondly, it's really, really open to foreigners. I think Dr. Hajihi yesterday talked about the love to the foreigners after the girl. This is the absorption of 200 people from 200 nationalities here. Really openness. People, I spoke with many people that came from Europe and from India. So how long are you here? How long are you here, by the way?
I've been here 12 years.
Okay, so people not coming for 1 year or 2 years, 5. You see many people that coming here for many years with their families, etc. So you have here the quality of manpower. It's not just, I'm sorry, the cleaners. We're talking about top executive openness. I don't see it in any other place in the world. So it's very easy to work from here. There were some barriers, and I want to talk about we talked about the free zone, but we're in the midst of revolution. Just in the 18th of November, President Khalifa bin Zayed signed a presidential decree which says that onshore businesses, not offshore in the free zone, onshore businesses, except few exceptions, it will be like the oil industry, I'm not sure, the banking, will be able, it will be totally foreign ownership. By the way, in Israel, we have to appreciate also what we have in our country. In our country, also no barrier. In Israel, no barrier, but a lot of taxes. Here, no barrier and no taxes, no corporate taxes. Also, I think I'm in my country because there are a lot of taxes. I deal with international tax planning. So in the past, there was the tax planning to establish a company in the BVI or Cayman or Channel Islands, etc. But there was no substance. Now people
here it will be kosher.
Here there is real substance. Real substance.
So do you expect more Israeli companies soon will establish headquarters here, maybe to address Chinese, Indian markets, the Far East in general?
First of all, the GC market, and then the Indian, Pakistani, Afghani even, and then all East Africa, which is prosperousness.
Sheikha, I would like to discuss with you a little bit the difference between the Emirates. We mostly talk about Dubai, Abu Dhabi, you now introduced us Ajman. Are there different between themselves in some business-wise, maybe sectors preferred or more comfortable working within certain areas?
Definitely, each emirate has its nature. And has its focus sector, but if you move within the UAE, you will never differentiate in which emirate you are. There is no any barriers in between. We are all as if it's an areas or zones in one area. The difference between them is only the, let's say, the look and feel, because we have some of the emirates are near to the seaside area, and some of them is in the middle of the city, which it's more to a business hub like the Emirates of Dubai. We have some of the Emirates, it's more to the mountainside. All of our Emirates has a similar, let's say, process of doing business and rules and regulation, because we lay under a federal authority when it comes to do a business. Going from that side, the difference between each free zone is the field that you would like to invest in. So I do advise every businessman to search before starting the business what type of business he would like to be, and to locate his business in the correct place. Because we do have some specialized free zones that focus on a certain sector. When it comes to Ajman Free Zone, we are a multi-sector focus free zone, and what I mean by that we do have industrial companies in different fields like health sector, textile, agriculture, food and beverage. So this is the industrial zone. On the other hand, we do have the China market, which is more to retail, and car and automobiles market also. So it's a separate zone that only focus on automobiles, and the other one is on retail. We do have some other zones that has educational zone that focus mainly on education, like institutes and developing skills developing firms and consultants. So Ajman Free Zone has a different nature when it comes to a mixture of doing business, and that helps businessmen to grow in their ecosystem, because they deal with each other when it comes to their supply chain. This is mainly the difference between each emirate and each free zone. But when it comes to the high level, we are almost common in its incentive due to the leadership, support and vision in the emirate. I may take the chance, Sophia, to talk about the process of starting the business and how Israeli businessman can start, if you do allow me in that. So mainly, we as we mentioned in the yesterday's session, that the UAE focused mainly on developing the government services to be digitized. So Ajman Free Zone has followed this approach, and we established a seamless business setup process. At Ajman Free Zone, you can start your business in your place in Israel just by logging to our website.
Without coming physically?
You don't need to come physically to start your business. You can come physically to receive your business place key and your facility place and start your business. So you can start your business from your place, just log into the website. And proudly saying our website has awarded a few days ago as the best website of the year due to the ease of use, and it's very easy. It's just register your interest. Someone will call you and will guide you how to start your business. You can get your license in the same day and operate the next day. So you can pay online and you can transfer your payments.
It sounds too good to be true, Vikram. Vikram, is it true? You had the same experience?
Absolutely, I must. We set up a small packing line for seeds, and it was all online, very smooth, and literally they welcome you. This place is a jewel if you do business in 138 countries like we do. And then we think how easy it is here. It is absolutely true.
So let's talk a little bit about agriculture, which is your field. In Israel we have a lot of agtech, and but it feels sometimes like it's mostly a buzzword, you know. And can you just be more specific about what areas in agtech can be interesting for starting operation here?
Yeah. So absolutely, as the earlier speaker, Mr. Friedman, talked, I think that the UAE is looking at food security. I think Israel has already done the whole journey. And even if we just talk about, and I'm unfortunately be repeating, but the water technologies of Israel, water recycling industries, drip irrigation, and seeds, just the basics here will really help the UAE reach double or triple from where it is today. If you travel across the Emirates, you will see beautiful farms here. Again, and if you travel in Israel and you see the kibbutz and some of the greenhouses and the net houses, they look very similar. And Israel has newer technologies. As a company, we do look at Israel for agri-technologies for our business, and we have a business there. So just from the starting of the basics of drip irrigation and water to IoT, to sensors, to food packing and food transportation, the list can go on and on.
Okay, great. Mayor, do you think that what will be easier for Israeli companies, for a small startup which just starts its way, or for large corporations?
Both.
Both.
So for the
Collaborate.
both for the startups, two things in this country. First of all, investments more for the funds, but also
we're getting money from the UAE funds.
Yes, that's one thing, but also complementary solution, because you say it's not a big market. It's very developed market, and especially on the healthcare and cybersecurity, and of course for the big companies. I think, as I told you, not only this, we have to see this is a substantial market in itself and very developed, but also a gate, real gate, to a lot of other countries.
Okay, great. So we're welcoming Archie to our stage. Thank you for joining us. We started talking a little bit. So maybe just introduce yourself briefly and then we'll continue.
Assalamu alaikum, shalom, wonderful to be here. Firstly, I'd like to apologize. Little bit combating border traffic from Dubai, Abu Dhabi. However, so glad to be here amongst all of you, and I think it's wonderful to connect with all our Israeli friends. Fortunately, I've had the pleasure to speak with some of you before this day today. So thank you very much for having me, and I look forward to our panel.
So we already started our discussion, and I would like to hear from you. It was mentioned here the big reform that just was passed last week, allowing foreign citizens to establish business without local partner. How do you think it will affect the business ecosystem here? Which sectors will benefit the most? Because from what I know, till today, in fintech and financials, you couldn't work just independently as a foreign citizen, right?
Correct. And I think this is a massive, monumental moment for most companies who are intending to set up LLCs. I think 100% ownership is really good and benefiting for most expatriate investors, because that had been one of the, always that question, that why do we need to have a local partner necessarily? But I'd like to also mention that having a local partner on paper and having an active local partner is also extremely important. So you have to really identify whether it's the need of your business. I think an LLC or a free zone for that matter, it's just a legal structure. Setting up or doing business in any sector has to be to the relevance of the emirate. I always say that you have to set up your legal structure in the emirate of your relevance. So that is something that would be monumental for innovation, upcoming fintech, blockchain, cryptocurrency, and all the sectors that will thrive in times to come.
Do you have some advice on homework? Yesterday, Mr. Sultan Ben Sulayem and also other businessmen here told everybody, prepare your homework, know who are you going to with your business pitch. How do you look for local partners, for maybe potential clients? What are the best ways to do that?
Like he mentioned very rightly, it's very important to have the right kind of approach. I think fortunately Israel and UAE have a similarity in culture. We have a similarity in the way they think, which is very progressive, forward-looking, and that's what is needed. So I think that is very important when we have any kind of a pitch or any kind of an approach to business. We have to be extremely forward-looking, not just 5 years, but 20 years from now. That's very important to know. 5 years ago, we didn't know that we'd be sitting here today speaking about Israel and UAE and having relationships. I remember somebody reaching out to me a couple of years ago in another country about having a relationship and doing financial transactions, and we never had a bilateral treaty with Israel. Fortunately, we do now, so it's opened up a lot of avenues for our investments as well.
Sheikha, I would like to hear from you. Say 3 years from now, how do you see the landscape of cooperation and business relations between Israel and the UAE? Give us the vision. We see in the UAE that there is a lot of vision and planning, and partly what makes it so successful country and economy. So let us hear your vision.
Let's say, Sophie, we already touch the effect of this relation. In day one from the announcement of the agreement, we had a high demand on investors who would like to come and open their business in UAE, and we already even signed an agreement with a representative that's representing Ajman Free Zone in Israel, and to explain Ajman Free Zone more in the region. There.
So you have a representative office now in Israel?
We do have a representative who represents Ajman Free Zone and market for it in the place. And still we are open also for businessmen and law firm and consultants who would like to also represent us, because we don't just limit it to one or two. We are open to many numbers, and we give them all the support in tools and techniques to explain the business process for investors. So the demand is very high. I'm looking, as you mentioned, what's my imagination for the coming period. I think Israel company will be part of the growth of certain sectors in the UAE. Because we already touch a certain growth. Let's say, if I would share some number, we do have more than 400 company in Ajman Free Zone that focus in technology and advanced technology. And due to our strategy, we are attracting technology companies from Israel. The growth in this year is more than 150% on the current technology companies. And I'm really seeing that Israel companies will be part of this growth due to the innovation and technology firms. We are Ajman Free Zone. We really welcome technology companies, and we are happy to be part of their R&Ds and their pilot projects. We have a policy within Ajman Free Zone to support companies to be a part of our purchasing deals that we do in our projects and our purchases. So I see that it will be they will play a role in our technology companies, growth in health sector and in educational sector. Agriculture is definitely one of the main places, and I do welcome investors to be part of our sustainable eco-friendly zone that will be opened in February 2021. We started to do the booking now, and we are open for that.
Sounds promising. Vikram, you are a little bit an observer from the side. You've been to Israel many times, and you know the Emiratis. What are the obstacles do you see to this collaboration now? We are very optimistic and excited what can be on the field.
I don't see too many obstacles. To be honest, I see that the culture of both the people, the way the families interact, the way they talk, the way they use their hands, you know, a lot of similarity. Second, I think that the need for each other is far, far greater. I've had Israeli friends who have been visiting the UAE for years. You know, even people who live in Israel who have 2 passports have been coming here for holidays. I see just opportunities, and especially you're mentioning in agriculture, in fintech. You know, Israel is a beautiful ecosystem of great entrepreneurship. The UAE is similar. If you look at a lot of the people in the UAE are immigrants or they're from elsewhere, so they all want to do something. There's that entrepreneurial spirit here. Everybody wants to be a businessman. Similarly, we know that Israel, everybody has ideas, and it's actually it's the #1 country in the world for creating new companies and even listing in the US. So.
Okay, great. Mayor, what is your vision for the business relations? How do you see them in 2 or 3 years from now?
So first of all, you know, we Israelis tend to rush. It's good, but it's long-term story. It's not. People are afraid that all the business opportunities will vanish in 1 month. No, there is a lot of time. I'm very optimistic. I'm very optimistic because Israelis know now how to do business internationally. I think in the last 2 decades we learned a lot how to do business internationally, and here it's very simple to do businesses. I compare it to the more to the Western world than to do businesses like in other it's not third world, it's first world country to do business. It's in my view very simple. And like in other places, of course, you have to know people, you have to be credible, long-term relationship, but I'm very optimistic. By the way, many think about the huge amount of money that will go from the UAE to Israel. I see at least also the other way around. First of all, from next week, tourism, I think the UAE will be flooded with end of
Yeah, they don't know what to expect.
I think we are underestimating ourselves We are good tourists. We are very good tourists, and people like Israelis. We are critical about ourselves, but so I think that it will be. So I see a lot. I see on the medical field. I think now. I think instead of going to the U.S., many Emiratis, I will see them going to Israel, and Israeli doctors coming here. I see a lot of. But it will develop over time. It's not in 1 month. I'm very optimistic. There will be problems, but not different than in any other country.
It's a great concluding remark. Arshi, your message to the Israeli businessmen and tourists maybe?
Well, I'm really looking forward to visit Tel Aviv and Jerusalem to start with. I'm really looking forward to that. And as a group holding, we're really interested to consider companies in cybersecurity, cyber surveillance. With the growing technology and innovation, we have to realize that these things are also parallelly very important to invest in. And I think with the Israeli expertise and the minds and the wonderful friends that we've made in the last 2 weeks, it's been great. So we'd really like that, and fortunately we are collaborating with a company based out of Israel. I think certainly good announcements will be made in the coming weeks.
You can make it right here now.
And it's really wonderful because we're developing curriculum which is also going to be given online for students and in schools, whether in Israel or in the UAE. So it's wonderful, and I'm really looking forward to growing this relationship because the kind of expertise and the kind of companies that come out of Israel are massive, and we have to really use that to our leverage and for both the nations.
Thank you. Just some concluding remarks, Sheikha. Vikram, do you have something? Just a message for Israeli businessmen, maybe?
As all of my colleagues have mentioned, when the investor he's already familiar to invest out of the country, taking a step and being here in UAE, especially in the distance of traveling, it's a very near area and it's a connecting area between all other continents. So I think Ajman itself or UAE itself, it's a good location, and we are familiar to different nationalities. We have more than 200 nationalities as businessmen, as kids in schools, as our colleagues in work. So we are familiar to even work with a diversity ecosystem. So don't feel like you're a stranger in the place. It's your second home here, and you will not find any difference if you walk around. Everybody will be welcoming each and other person here in the world.
Okay,
So
it sounds we are all open for business. Thank you very much for your insights, and I hope next year we will be able to discuss joint success stories. Thank you very much. We would like